Welcome back to My Nana's Needles. I'm Maggie and I'm going to show you how to finish up this Dillon bifold leather wallet. As you can see, it's off slightly. I've already done this side and I put raw side to raw side because this will be the inside of the wallet where you'll put your money. So no one's really going to see that. But you will see this beautiful leather on the outside and the beautiful leather on the inside. So what I need to do is when I fold this, the things will line up much better. And this is how the wallet will look when it's finished. So I just kind of give it a little crease. And I am actually going to set this down like this. And I'm going to be using these binder clips. They come in so handy when you're trying to fit pieces together where they don't seem like they want to fit. So I'm going to make sure all of my pieces are lined up over here. And I'm going to grab my clamp and I'm going to put it right there. All right, and we are going to do our edge knot. So I'm gonna start in the very first hole, and this one may be a little more difficult to get started because it's not lining up exactly like it did before, because obviously we have to count for the fold in the wallet or else we won't be able to close it. So I put it through the first hole. The first needle goes through the first hole, and I'm gonna put this one through the second hole. And remember, because we did our T-slots, this one's probably gonna fall in between the two slots. So let me find that hole. And I'm probably gonna have to lift a little bit, wiggle a little bit to find that spot. There we go, got it. Okay, so now I have the two needles here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull them through. And remember, I'm gonna line them up so I have the same amount on both sides, on both pieces and through both holes. All right, now I have to do my whip stitch. So this one, this is my edge stitch. So this is gonna, and it's a whip stitch in other areas. So I'm just gonna take it over the top and come through the back. The same hole that I just was in. And just pull it through. Now I can go ahead and do this one a second time and pull that through and make sure it lines up. I'm gonna do about 3 or 4 whip stitches at the top, 3 or 4 edge stitches. Now this one is on the top. So I'm gonna go through this hole, through the first hole, and then I'm going to pull it out and I'm gonna take it over the top through that hole again. Make sure I got it all pulled nice and tight. All right, that's 3 of them. I'm gonna do 1 more. So I'm gonna go back to my first string and I'm gonna whip it over the top and I'm just gonna go back through that very first hole. That's basically all we're doing right at this minute, is whipping in and out of this first hole. Okay, and I'm gonna pull it, wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. My paper sliding. Come on. And I just wiggle it around. Sometimes it gets a little tight. All right, and I get it there, I pull it tight. All right, now I'm on the back. So I'm gonna go through the second hole because I have a needle in the back that needs to come up to the top. So I'm gonna find my second hole and I'm gonna pull him through. And as I pull him, oops, got him caught on my little binder clip, and that does happen when you use them, but not having them would make it much harder to do. All right, so I pulled him to the top. And remember, when we come to the top, we hold him to the side, and the top one will go down. Come on. We'll go down to the bottom. And we snug it up. Bottom one comes back up to the top. So I find my next hole, slide it in, pull it through, lay him to the side, put my other binder clip out of the way. Go back down through that hole that I just created. And then when I get there, I'm gonna snug it up. My bottom one will come to my top again, and this one's gonna fall in between. Top one goes through to the bottom. So I need to find that little hole in that gap there. Once I hit the curve, things should start being a little snugger and easier with the wallet lining up. But with this binder clip, it's actually lining up pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And remember, I can always lift up that little flap just to get him through, because I'll snug it down. And just because I lifted it, I'm gonna grab this back piece and the front piece, and I'm just gonna snug it again. Pull this through, him to the side, go back through the top to the bottom. Come on, there we go. Make sure you're not caught on my binder clip. Snug him up tight. And this one is gonna come up in between, just like that. This is that hole that's in between the pockets. And I have to go back down. So I'm just gonna lift that flap just a smidge so that I can find that hole. Come on, where'd you go? There it is. You just wiggle it around till you find it. Him through, and then of course, we're gonna snug it. Because he's on the back, we're gonna go back up to the top, and I'm gonna lift this a smidge. We're going through about 4 sheets of leather here. So sometimes it gets caught because the hole may not be exactly the same through all 4 sheets. I'm just gonna wiggle it, there we go. And now that I've found it, I'm gonna make sure it goes into this first hole. Come on, don't you dare fall out of there. And if I have to pull the needle through, that sometimes happens when you're dealing with multiple layers. You just pull it through a little bit and then find the top hole. Just make sure you go through it in the right direction. All right, I'm going to pull this one snug there, move him out of the way, take him through the top to the bottom. And if you find you have to lift it to get this one too, that's perfectly okay, because you'll snug it up when you get it to the back side. I just don't want to go through the thread of the previous, especially if I'm loosening it up a little, because then it won't lay flat. It'll lock up and form a knot that will not lay, and I would hate to have to cut this out and start over. There we go. And we pull it through. And of course, snug it up. Just make sure everything lays flat, because sometimes when you snug it up, it pulls something off a little bit. So if I notice that, I just try to flatten it back out. Find the next hole, wiggle it around, lift it up. All right, we're gonna do the same thing we did on the last one. We're gonna lift that up a little bit, just so I can get a couple of them tacking it down better. There we go. Push it through. And I can snug this up that way. And of course, make sure it's laying flat. Then I take this one, hold him out of the way, go back through the top. You know what, I'm gonna loosen up that binder clip a little bit. I think that's what's making it not lay quite on the holes just right. Then again, maybe not. There we go. Come on. There it is. He just wanted to play hide and seek in there. Okay, snug it up. And again, bring it up through to the top. And this part gets a little bit tedious and a little bit difficult at times, because like I said, you're going through 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of leather. And while the holes are all there, trying to get them to line up exactly sometimes does not quite work. So we'll just keep doing this for a little bit till we get it where it falls back in. And then I make sure that goes through the back of this one. There we go. And I'm just gonna pull that one tight. Grab this and see if we release that all together, if that makes a difference. There we go. This one little pocket thing is gonna try to be difficult. And just before I go too far, I just want to double check and make sure I've got a solid line of stitching and I haven't skipped any holes. If you have, then you need to take the needle off and unthread it and restitch it, because skipping holes will weaken the wallet and give you an unprofessional look, because you'll obviously be able to see that you've skipped holes. There we go. And we just keep doing this all the way around. And again, this is our saddle stitch. There we go. There it is. Hopefully this will get just a smidge easier. We might find a little more difficult when we try to get it to lay over on the other side. And again, sometimes it's easier just to lift this up and then find that hole and pull it through. And I would suggest in doing this, especially if you're not in the habit of sewing leather, so your fingers aren't very tough, that you might want to invest in a thimble just for pushing it through. And it's going to be difficult. Let me see here. Let's do this one. Lift this and find that hole. There we go. Just make sure when you lift it, you go back into the hole that you're supposed to be in, so that you're not skipping a hole and they're all lined up like I just did. I actually went backwards a hole. So we're going to do that stitch again. I have enough thread there that it'll be okay. Come on. I will say it was much easier doing the other side, but I wanted to show you the side that would be the struggle, to show you that you can do it. Just takes a little bit of finagling, but you can do it. And because I did that, I'm gonna grab this side and just snug it up real quick. Pull that through. I'm gonna take this one back down through that hole. Come on. And I'm gonna snug them. Okay, I'm gonna go. And you see I've got, and you can, because it gets hard to see when the thread matches the letter, just feel it and see where you're at, and then go to the next hole. And you just wiggle that needle, there we go, till he gets in there. And then I'm gonna go back down. There we go. And push this back up through. And see, some of them go through very nicely and other ones just want to fight with you. Now you saw how nicely that one went through, and now this one wants to fight. There we go. But I will say, when it's finished, it is beautiful. So it's kind of worth the fight. Whenever I separate them like that, I just give it another tug before I pull it all the way through, just to make sure nothing's loose. And I'm gonna hold that down and find that hole. And there we go. And that's the good thing about these wax threads. You can just drop them and pick them back up when you need them. And there we go. I don't have too much more to go. Because this is a bifold wallet, it's gonna stop just past this. We're gonna do a lock stitch like we did here, an edge lock right there over on this side, and then there'll have a slight hole right there, but you have to allow for the leather to bend so that the wallet can be closed. So that's why it doesn't stitch all the way around. And I will say there was plenty of thread to do this whole project. However, if it's your first time and you're afraid of making a mistake cutting the thread, and it would be a wise decision to purchase a spool of thread. It's like $2.99. This way you can guarantee if you make a mistake cutting that you still have enough thread to finish your project. And the thread will match because it all comes from Tandy. They use three colors for most of their projects. Ouch, I stabbed my finger. There it is. It was wanting to play hide and go seek. And sometimes you have to do that. It's kind of hard to see it. So, and because I didn't tug it, I'm just gonna loosen this side back up. That last stitch I just put in, I'm just gonna loosen it back up some and give a tug just to make sure it's tight. Then pull it the rest of the way. Now we may run into that problem of things lining up again, just because we're coming up on a curve. It is. Now let me find that top one. There we go. And this is when a clamp would come in handy, just because it's wanting to unbend and wiggle around, but I don't make enough of these to warrant the investment in space and money for the clamp. The clamps aren't that expensive. It's just trying to find the space for them. And if you're not going to use them that much, it's like, is it really necessary? Oh, it went too far. There we go. And just wiggle it around again. There we go, found it. And it's a little easier for these holes to line up if I kind of hold the wallet in an upright position, like in an L shape. So every now and then you'll see me bend it, and I'm bending it that way so that I can find those holes better. And we're coming up on the end. We don't have too much left of this before we see this beautiful wallet finished. Come on. I see it, but it doesn't want to go in it. We are doing so great. Then it wanted to play games again. So we'll just play our little game. There we go. These will get a little harder to separate as I get closer to this edge because it's stitched and it's slipped, of course. There we go. Sometimes those holes are there, they're just really hard to find. And again, I forgot to tug it. So I'm gonna loosen this last stitch up just a smidge, and I just pull it a little bit, just so I can grab a hold of both sides. Tug it tight, and then pull it through. And we're gonna separate this just a smidge. You know what? I'm gonna do it the way we just did it. It's wanting to play games. There it is. You see how it's bowing out? This is where we're gonna run into a slight bit of a problem trying to get it to line up. So I may use the clamp here again in a minute. We'll see. Sometimes on that raw leather, it's hard to find the hole. And this is why we burnish the edges, because it makes them nice and smooth and protects them. It's just making sure you don't miss a hole as you go. You don't knot up the thread. The shiny leather gets a little hard to find those holes. That's why I usually do these during the day, just so that it's easier to see, because you have better, daylight's better. But Father's Day is tomorrow, and I wanted to make sure this was finished. And I had some other stuff I had to do this afternoon. I had that paper there so you could see the contrast between the white paper and the brown leather, making it a little easier to see what I was doing. So I said some of them go through nice and easy, slick as butter, and others you have to fight with. But once you get it in, it does look beautiful. And the smell of genuine leather is just, I don't know, just a homey feel. Here we are, and there it is. Have to wiggle it around a little bit. And we're coming up on the end, so it's gonna get a little more difficult to get those holes to line up, because you see we have that gap. So let's see. I'm gonna have to move this when I get to those holes that are under that, but there we go. And like I said, you just wiggle it around. Just make sure your thread doesn't come undone. If it does, you can just put it back on. Wax canvas or wax thread, you just rub it with your fingers and it warms it back up and melts the wax back.
Hey guys, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on my Instagram.